the daughter, was signed over by the dad, since she's a minor and cannot sign for herself and was not in the capacity to sign for herself.
Mr. Reedy, at any point that you were with that child, with Hannah, did you or your partner perform CPR on Hannah?
We did not.
Did you or your partner take any precautions when dealing with Hannah's body, her neck, her head?
So when we were on scene, we felt the situation to be a bit unsafe. It made us feel uneasy. And so we determined it was best just to get her out of the situation as quickly as we could. My partner, Liam, we scooped her up. He scooped her up, cradling her tightly to his body, supporting the head. We walk out to the cot. We lay her down on the cot. We strap her in with our straps, and we load her up into the cot, into the medic. And at that point, that's when Jason, the father, was asking about going. We told him, no, we're going. We need no distractions, no disruptions. He agreed. He agreed and followed. And that's when we went en route to Fort Hamilton.
And Mr. Reedy, at any time or at any point when you were with this child, did you do anything to cause bruising to her body, her head, her face, or the back of her head?
I did not.
Anytime did you do anything to cause injury to this child?
I did not.
All right, no further questions for this witness. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Defense, before we cross, I'm going to note it's 11:15. The jury would probably appreciate a quick 10-minute break. For restroom purposes, I generally don't like to interrupt the flow of a witness's testimony, but given the time that we've dealt with some issues and whatever, I think it's probably appropriate.
Okay.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, before you go out and hit the restrooms and whatever, please leave your notepads. Please keep on your lanyards. Please note your admonitions. You are not to be discussing this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. You are not to be researching anything. And everybody's got smartphones nowadays. Don't do any of that. I'll be asking you when you return. Sir, you are still under oath and still in the midst of testimony. You are not to be discussing your testimony with anyone else while we're on this break either. Okay?
Okay.
All right, we'll come back, gather around 11 o'clock, okay? All right, everybody have a seat. We're back on the record, State of Ohio versus Lindsay Partin. Back from our recess. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any issues that need to be reported to the court? You know, I see a bunch of heads shaking no's and no hands going up. So I will then accept that there are no issues to deal with. Mr. Pagan, the defense ready to cross?
Yes, sir.
All right, you going to cross?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. All right, it's still morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Chris Pagan, and I'm the defense attorney. We've never met?
Nope.
Okay. Is this your first time ever testifying?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations. How old are you?
25.
Okay. And currently you have 2 jobs, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're a part-time firefighter EMS worker for Hanover Township.
Yes.
And then you have a job as a EMS for a private provider?
Yes.
Okay. And together that makes full-time work?
That one is full-time. Hanover is part-time. I work over full-time. I work a lot.
Right. You're 25 and you have more energy than a guy like me.
Not right now.
All right. But, so the jury understands, Hanover Township is a township in Butler County.
Yep.
It's not a municipality.
No.
Okay. It doesn't have a full-time police force.
It has a contract with the sheriff's deputies.
Right. So Hanover Township itself doesn't have a township police force.
No.
Okay. It doesn't have a full-time fire department.
Well, we are at the station 24/7, 365. We're just not full-time employees. There are us on the paid staff, as we call it. There are part-timers that work on a set rotation, and there's also volunteers that supplement us on bigger incidents.
And you're not a volunteer, you're a paid
Both.
part-time.
Part-timers are both. We are interchangeable.
Okay. And would the nearest city be either Hamilton or Oxford?
Yeah, Hamilton by far the closest, and then Oxford's a good second.
Okay. And would it also be fair to say that the Hamilton Fire Department provides help and services to Hanover Township for big events?
Very rarely.
Okay. All right. Now, you said this was the first time you ever testified.
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you prepared for your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. What did you do to prepare for your testimony?
We had a couple meetings with Ms. Sheehan
Mhm.
at the firehouse. We did back in November, was it November, I believe, and then just a few days ago, last Friday.
Okay. And apart from meetings, did you review documents?
I did best I could when not working.
Okay.
Or
What-
sleeping.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
When I wasn't working or sleeping to go to work, I did review some.
Okay. And what documents did you review?
Mainly just the record that we had of questions that we had asked back and forth and the responses that I had given.
All right, I didn't hear what you said. Say it again.
She emailed me a document that was basically questions that she asked, and they were my responses. I looked over that, briefly, and then the report as well.
And when you talk about the report, is that State Exhibit 1, which you
Yes,
got?
State Exhibit 1, yes.
Any other documentation that you reviewed to refresh your recollection here today?
No.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that this report, State Exhibit 1, which is your report, correct?
Yes.
Your name is on it.
Yes.
All right. You mentioned another guy named Liam.
Yes.
What's his last name?
Harold.
Liam Harold's name isn't on this report.
It is.
It is?
He is not as the in-charge provider.
Okay.
It is my partner.
And he did not provide a space where he put his name behind the narrative.
Right.
Okay. The narrative says Reedy, A-E-M-T.
That is mine.
Okay. That's because you taped out the narrative. Yes?
Yes.
You gotta say yes because we're
Okay.
recording and somebody
Okay.
might get.
Yes.
That's okay. Right. And you put AEMT because it's assistant EMT?
Advanced.
Advanced EMT. Okay. And your assistant Liam didn't provide a narrative.
No. Only the in-charge provider provides the narrative and actually does the report.
Okay.
The partner just reviews after you're done, and we kind of collaborate to see if we need to change things, and this is our final document.
Gotcha. So this was prepared closer in time to the event
Yes.
when your mind was fresher?
Right.
Okay. When you had a better sense of what the details were?
Right.
Okay. And when you go to the last page, which contains the narrative, if I understood your testimony, you collaborated with your partner Liam to
Yes.
determine. You gotta let me finish. I know. To determine that it was accurate.
Yes.
You determined together that the narrative was accurate.
Yes.
There were no objections made by your partner as to the narrative you put forward.
No.
All right. When you reviewed your narrative for your meetings with the assistant prosecutor and to testify, you have no dispute with that narrative.
No.
Now, before you were provided with the report, you testified without the benefit of the report here
Right.
today, correct?
Right.
And so, when you testified and said that that the run happened on 3/8/2017, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, a mistake because it happened a long time ago.
Yes.
Yes, no dispute that it happened in 2018.
Correct.
You just made a mistake.
Right.
Okay. And when you testified about the timeline without the aid of the report, and the report has the timeline,
Correct.
you indicated you arrived on scene at 7:19.
Which is the time we arrived at the patient, which is the time we took our first set of vitals.
Right.
But again, without the aid of the report, it's been a long time.
Yes, because the report indicates, and I'm going to publish it because it's been admitted. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Because the report here indicates you're on scene at 7:13.
Correct.
Mr. Fagan, if you need to zoom in it or blow it up, you can do that on that.
I'm very nervous to do it, but I appreciate
And
it.
Ms. Wilson can help you if you just
Okay.
just ask her.
Thank you, Judge. All right. So you arrived at 7:13, 7:19.
We arrived at 7:13. Liam arrived at the patient before me because, like we had said earlier, he went in prior to me going in. He arrived around 7:14 at the patient, which is documented in there. Our first set of vitals were taken at 7:19.
Right. So what I offered there was the 3/8/2017 and the 7/19. Those are examples of mistakes that you made in your testimony because your report is more accurate.
Right.
Okay. You have the monitor in front of you, correct?
Yes.
All right. And I'm going to put the narrative up. So when you and I talked about the narrative, this is the narrative that you took.
Yes.
The one that you say was accurate.
Yes.
All right. The one that has your name down at the bottom.
Yes.
The one that you collaborated with Liam about.
Yes.
Okay. And looking at me, when you testified, you told the jury about the father's behavior there in the garage, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated that he was nudging or putting his hands on Hannah.
Yes.
All right. And you would acknowledge that that's not what you wrote in the report. Would you acknowledge that that's not what you wrote in the report?
I will acknowledge that the wording is not correct.
Okay.
That was the best wording I could come up with at the time, dealing with the situation.
I understand that's your explanation. But your report, which you said,
Hold on just a second, I'm sorry. Ma'am, I see a hand in the jury box. Ma'am, what's?
I'm unable to read the report. I don't know if you're intending for us to be able to read it, but I'm unable to see the words in the narrative.
thank you. I'm going to try and zoom it in.
It's still going.
I can see it now.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you. You get what you asked for.
Can you read that? Just give it a second. It might take a minute.
Are you able to read that?
You could just move it down.
So you would agree, beginning where my pen is, that you wrote the words, "Father on scene kept hovering over the child, trying to shake the child to just wake up. Father continued to hover over EMS the entire time."
Yes.
All right. Because that's true, right?
Yes.
That's what occurred. Right?
Yes.
And you made that notation because it was concerning to you.
It was.
You made that notation because it was unusual to you.
It was.
All right. And is it fair to say that you used the verb shake and not nudge because you made the observation that he was touching, handling, nudging, or shaking her to wake her up, wake her up?
That was the best choice of words I could find for the time. Nudging is a better term for that. Nudging in. I put my hands here.
Okay. And what's problematic about that to an EMT, did I get that right, EMT?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's problematic about that to an EMT is that he was interfering with the care that you were trying to provide.
Correct.
All right. Not my client.
She was also asking questions as well.
Okay. Did she put her hands?
No.
Did she hover?
Yes.
Did you write in the report that she hovered?
No.
Okay. So it wasn't concerning to you when you wrote the report, was it?
It was, but not as much as the father.
Okay. When you testified on direct, you didn't tell the jury that the defendant, Lindsay, hovered over the patient, did you?
No.
When you wrote the report that you collaborated with Liam about, you didn't write those words that Lindsay hovered and interfered with you.
No. She was talking to us and in real close, just like Jason.
But now on cross-examination, that's how you characterize it, despite the fact that you didn't testify about that on direct, and you didn't put in the report that you collaborated with your colleague about?
Yeah.
So you wrote an incomplete, false report?
No. It's what I remembered at the time.
Okay. And again, you remember things closer in time better
Yeah.
than you do.
This is what we got at the time, considering everything that had just happened. You try to do my job, you will do the same thing.
Be accurate, right?
You do your best.
Be honest, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you just said you remember things closer to the event, right?
Yes.
And here we are over a year plus later, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're characterizing Lindsay as hovering, which you never did before.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Right?
Right.
Okay. You also testified on direct that you directed the father not to ride in the ambulance with you and your partner and Hannah to Fort Hamilton.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm going to tell you what I heard. You tell me if I'm wrong. You said that because you didn't want to have a disruption, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You were concerned that he might become a disruption while you were trying to provide care to Hannah in transport.
He was upset. We were afraid that anything that we tried to do to aid, he might be in the way of. There's not a lot of room back there. We need our space to work.
All right. So you,
No one's allowed to ride in the back of the ambulance for any call. That's
Right.
that's standard across the board.
Now
No
let's
one
look at
rides
the
in.
language that you used when you had a better and fresher memory. Beginning there, follow with me. Father told not to ride with EMS to the hospital, probably a typo, hospital due to him being a disruption.
Correct.
All right, those are the words that you wrote.
Yeah.
All right. That's what you think was true.
Yes.
All right. And you used the phrase, he was being a disruption, which is different than potentially being a disruption.
Correct.
And the fact of the matter is that he was being disruptive at the scene by hovering, touching, and you had concerns about it that you noted in that report.
Yes.
Okay. And nowhere in this report is there an indication that the defendant, the babysitter, was a disruption at all. Is there?
Correct.
And that's because she wasn't a disruption.
I won't say that. I will just say that it's not in there. I know what I saw.
All right. Did you, on your direct with the prosecutor, tell this jury under oath a year and a half later that my client was a disruption at the scene?
She was there talking to us and close with us. And it clearly says she was talking to us.
When you testified on direct examination, you indicated that you felt that Hannah was in an unsafe environment.
Correct.
And that you scooped and got her out of there because
Yes.
you have to let me finish. I'm sorry about that. What does that mean?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let's just get the rules straight. I mean, I'll ask my question, and if you don't understand it, just tell me. I don't.
Okay.
It's not a. Okay. All right. So I'll start over. Is it true that when you testified on direct examination that you told this jury under oath that you felt that Hannah was unsafe?
Yes.
All right. And that you sought to get her out from the garage environment
Correct.
because she was unsafe?
Correct.
Okay. And the reason that you concluded that she was unsafe is because the dad was, according to your report, shaking her?
That is not the reason. We felt as a whole, the situation as a whole is very concerning. That's why we got her out.
Okay.
It's not just him.
All right. In your report, you talk about the father shaking, right?
Correct.
The father telling her to wake up, yes?
Yes.
The father hovering,
Yes.
the father being excluded from the EMS because he was being a disruption,
Correct.
all right?
Which is normal
Where-
for everybody.
Okay, thank you for that. There is nothing else in this report, this narrative, that talks about safety and unsafety besides what I just read,
Correct.
okay? Which means there's nothing about the defendant, Lindsay Partin, the babysitter in this case, acting out in a way that made you conclude.
I did say she was
Let
talking.
me finish. There's nothing in this report that you wrote, that you collaborated about, that indicated that my client, in any circumstances, acted poorly, so for you to draw the conclusion that she was acting in a way that made her unsafe, Hannah unsafe. Isn't that true?
Correct.
Thank you. I'm not going to publish these yet, but I'm going to let you see them. I've handed you 2 photographs of Hannah. Take a look at those and let me know when you're done, and I'm going to ask you some questions about those.
Okay.
Mr. Pegan, just so the record is clear on identification
Yeah.
purposes.
I'll do it. Thank you. And let the record reflect that I'm handing the witness State Exhibit 41 and State Exhibit 50, which purport to be photographs of Hannah. Thank you, Judge. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. You didn't take that photograph.
No,
All right. You don't know who took that photograph.
I do not. No.
Okay. You don't know exactly where that photograph was taking place.
No.
Okay. You can't say that the image that you see before you truly and accurately depicted how Hannah looked like at that time, given the fact that you know nothing about the circumstances of that photograph.
The only thing I noticed difference the shaved
I need you
head.
to answer my question.
This is exactly how I saw her, minus the shaved head.
All right, that's not my question. The question is, you can't say that the image that you see there accurately and fairly depicted her physical condition at the time the photograph was taken, because you know nothing about the circumstances in which the photograph was taken.
I'll agree with that.
Okay. Now you're aware, because you did it, that Hannah was transported from the scene to Fort Hamilton Hughes Hospital.
Correct.
Okay. And you're aware that she received treatment at Fort Hamilton Hughes Hospital.
Correct.
And you're aware that she was handled at Fort Hamilton Hughes Hospital.
Correct.
And you're aware that she was given scans, CAT scans, at Fort Hamilton Hughes Hospital.
Correct.
And you're aware that she was then life squatted or helicoptered from Fort Hamilton Hughes to Children's Hospital.
Correct.
Okay. And you're aware that she received emergency surgery.
Your Honor, objection. It's outside the scope of the witness's testimony.
Well, it's cross. I'll overrule the objection. It's cross-examination. I'll allow it up to this point. Cross-examination is wide latitude. So Mr. Pegan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And you're aware that she had emergency surgery on March the 8th, 2018 at Children's Hospital.
I was aware she had it. I wasn't aware of the date.
Right. And so there was, her body was moved? Yes?
In what stage?
I mean, it was moved from the scene to a hospital, to a helicopter, from the helicopter to Children's Hospital, to
Correct.
various scans and to get surgery.
Correct.
But looking at the photographs that are in front of you, you don't know exactly what time that image was obtained, do you?
I do not.
And you have no idea, because you weren't present, how her body was treated, touched, handled, or what have you.
I do not.
After the care occurred.
I do not.
And you don't know if that picture occurred at Fort Hamilton Hughes Hospital or Children's Hospital.
I do not.
And you're aware that her treatment from at Children's Hospital went from March 8th to March 18th.
I didn't know the exact dates, but I knew it was a while.
Okay. And if that picture was depicted at Children's Hospital, you wouldn't know if it was on the 8th of March, correct?
Correct.
The 9th of March?
Correct.
The 10th of March?
Correct.
The 11th of March?
Correct.
The 12th of March?
Correct.
All the way to 18th.
Correct.
But you did discuss bruises in your report.
I did.
Okay. Do you have the report with you, or do I have it?
I do not have it.
And I'm going to put this up on the screen again.
Okay.
Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And would you agree with me that the first and only statement about bruises occurs where my finger is.
Okay.
And that reads, first assessment found multiple bruises all over patient's body. Patient has sunken in eye sockets, also bruised, all bruises in multiple stages of healing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you didn't, for whatever reason, you didn't describe the location of the bruises on the body, did you?
Correct. There's a lot.
Okay. But you had the opportunity to write it down, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had the opportunity to write it down when it was fresh in your mind.
Correct.
Okay, and that wasn't done.
It was done as I saw fit.
Okay. It was done as you saw fit, correct?
Correct.
All right. But there's not, in this report, an evaluation of the locations of the bruises on her body, just a general statement about bruises?
Correct.
Okay. And you do mention that the bruises that you observed were in multiple stages of healing.
Yep. I do.
But there's no depiction in your narrative about which bruise appears to be fresher and which bruise does not appear to be fresh.
Correct.
Would it be fair to say that you were, and if you need to evaluate the report, just let me know.
Okay.
You were on scene at the garage at 7:14. You're at the patient at 7:14, and you left at 7:25.
Correct.
All right. So you had 11 minutes there in the garage,
Correct.
and you've described what you've done, what actions you and your partner performed in those 11 minutes. And one of the things that you did was take a history, correct?
Took vital signs. We didn't have time to obtain a history. No one gave us a history on the patient as far as medical history prior to this.
Okay. Well, you did take a brief history in those 11 minutes, correct? Because there is a statement attributed to both the father and the babysitter, my client, with respect to bruising.
Right. We took a brief history of that day. Nothing prior to that. When you say history, I'm thinking of patient's entire medical history. That's
Okay.
what I'm trained to know. And that's what's told to me when I think of history.
Gotcha. Well, let's look at what the report says. Can you all see that? Is it big enough? Okay, so beginning right there. PT, that stands for patient?
Correct.
Okay. Patient's father on scene.
Correct.
And babysitter stated patient fell yesterday and hit her head hard and had complaining of a headache since the fall, stated the babysitter. Correct?
Correct.
All right. So this was a fall yesterday.
That's what we were told.
Okay. So when you just described the statement that you took about that particular day,
Mhm.
that's an error because you took a statement about what occurred the day before.
Okay.
Right?
The history of this particular incident, not other medical history.
So the statement that we just read about a fall and yesterday and hitting head hard, that came from both the patient, or no, strike that. That came from both Lindsay, the babysitter, correct?
Correct.
And the father.
No.
Okay? That just came from the,
Patient's father on scene and babysitter stated patient fell yesterday. I had simply said patient's father is on scene.
okay. So that was a statement that was attributed to her.
Correct.
And it was a statement that was made in the presence of the father.
Correct.
And the father didn't object.
I don't know what he said. I wasn't focused on him as far as what he was saying to somebody else just what he was trying, saying to us.
You didn't hear him object.
No,
You didn't hear him say, that's not what happened.
no, because he didn't know either.
Okay.
He told us he didn't know either.
All right, so there was a statement from the father that's not in this report.
I don't see where that's relevant.
Okay, well, you don't get to choose what's relevant or not. What I'm trying to decide is, strike that. You got one statement from Lindsay, correct?
Correct.
All right. You're now telling me that there were other statements that you heard from the father that aren't depicted in your report.
These statements, he just told us that he's like, I don't know what's going on. Like,
Okay.
no, he didn't say much else aside from what you see, where he said, wake up, wake up,
Where?
in the narrative.
Okay. What statements attributed to him?
The hovering over, just wake up. Father continued to hover.
Okay. Well, those aren't statements by the father. Those are behaviors that you observed, hovering and shaking.
I said, just wake up. I didn't say shaking at all. You put that in my mouth.
You're saying that I put the word shaking in your mouth?
I'm talking about right now. I never said shaking right now.
Okay. No, it's in your report that you wrote when it was.
I understand that, but I wasn't speaking about that. I was speaking about when he said wake up.
Okay. And that's in quotation marks, right?
Correct.
Okay. We'll point right there. And is that the only statement that you remember him making?
That's the only statement directly to us that I remember him making.
Right. Okay. And you're trained in how to do these narratives.
Correct.
You were concerned about the safety of the child.
Correct.
If you heard anything that was problematic, you would have depicted it in your narrative.
Correct. And like I said, the only thing problematic was just the behavior that we really thought. The behavior was confusing. I'll say it was confusing.
Okay. Well, you say confusing now, but you said disruptive in your report.
Confused me as to why it was so disruptive.
Okay.
It's not normal on a normal scene.
Because he was interfering with your care.
He never once interfered. I was afraid he was going to become I was afraid he was going to cause more harm.
Okay.
He never once stopped us from doing anything.
Okay. Well, I mean,
He never stopped me. He never stopped me. He just was concerned and he was doing this.
okay.
But he let me do everything I had to do.
Well, you wouldn't be concerned that he was going to do harm if he was gently touching Hannah or nudging her, would you?
It's still an observation, so I put it in there. I was not concerned.
That's my question is, you wouldn't be concerned about him nudging or just gently touching her, would you?
No.
But you would be concerned if he was shaking her,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. And you put in your report that he was shaking her, right?
Correct.
And you testified to the jury you were concerned about her safety and you got her out of there, right?
Correct. That's an overall scene safety.
Just answer my question.
I did. I said yes, and that's
Okay.
an overall scene safety. That's why we got her out of there. It's not attached to anybody.
All right. And you put in your report that he was excluded from the ambulance because he was disruptive at the scene.
Yeah.
Okay. And to circle back what I was trying to get accomplished, and I think I did, but I'm going to make sure that I did. You heard Lindsay say something about a fall yesterday,
Correct.
where she hit her head hard,
Correct.
complaining about headaches, I think?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. And the father never interrupted to say, that's not true.
No.
Objection, asked and answered.
I mean, he didn't. I don't think he knew.
He didn't.
Yeah. I can't speak for him, but he didn't seem to have a clue.
But you can't speak for him because you were there. You heard things.
No, I'm not speaking on behalf of him because he's not me.
Right.
I'm not.
Okay, I understand you're not him, but you were present at the scene.
Correct.
And you were present at the scene to hear what Lindsay had to say,
Yeah.
right?
I'm not going to speak on. I'm not going to put words in other people's mouths. If I didn't hear it, I'm not putting it out there.
Okay. You did 2 vital readings, correct?
Correct.
All right, I'll show you so you're not answering in a vacuum. And they're contained on the first page of the report.
Correct.
Can you all see that? I'm afraid to zoom in. This would be the first one?
Correct.
All right. And this would be the second one?
Correct.
All right. And that would indicate respiration?
That is respiration, and the 98 right there is her oxygen level. That's the oxygen that's currently saturating in her blood.
I'm sorry. I'm stuck to a cord. All right, I apologize. I don't see what you're referring to. What's
Okay.
the 90 number?
Do you see 22 dash
Yes,
minute?
right here?
Yeah, right down below where it says effort, sound, and sound. You see SpO2. You see that
Oh, I see.
98?
Yeah.
That
So-
is her oxygen
all
saturation.
right. And O2 is oxygen?
Yes.
All right. And then at the second reading, it was the same amount of respiration
Correct.
and 97.
Correct.
All right. What does 98 and 97 mean?
That's just the percent of oxygen attached to her hemoglobin in her blood. That's both of those are completely normal for any human.
Okay. So you didn't have concerns about her breathing?
I had concerns that it was a little bit shallow and rapid and like again that sniffing. But as far as her oxygen saturation, that's not concerning to me.
Okay.
The inadequate breathing, like I said, the rate at which she was breathing was just odd, not normal.
Gotcha. And you have the training, education, and experience to ventilate?
Not with a ventilator. We can use a bag valve mask, which is the
Right.
bag. Yeah.
And that's to support breathing?
Correct.
All right. You didn't do that?
No, she didn't need it.
Okay. And then the notation on the far right, GCS, that stands for?
Glasgow Coma scale,
Right. And that's a measurement of?
alert, responsiveness,
Right.
awareness.
The higher the number, the better the score.
Correct. 15 is the highest you can get. 3 is the lowest.
Okay. And the GCS, again, looking
Correct.
here, which is 11,
Yeah.
not an overly concerning reading.
Yes. Anything below 15 is concerning.
Right. Okay. And it's, did you train on GCSs and how to take them?
Yeah. It's just an assessment looking at the patient. You can assess if their eyes are open, if they're moving their arms, and if they're talking to you.
Right.
Anyone
So,
can do it.
3 categories within the GCS. One is eye response,
Correct.
one is verbal response.
Correct.
One is
Nah,
motor
it's not eye response. It's eyes open or not, basically.
Anything else?
Eyes are open. So if you see on here, it's got eyes, which are spontaneous, so they are open. Her verbal response is the inappropriate cries, inconsistently consolable, or moaning. Her motor response was withdrawing from painful stimuli, which when we tried to start the IV, she withdrew, so we ended up
Okay.
not going that route.
Gotcha. And what this report indicates were the concerning things in the GCS, not the full scale report.
No, that's the full GCS, that's it.
Okay. 1 second.
Take your time.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hold up. No, not you. Make sure the witness didn't.
Oh, okay.
Let me get out of your way. Take me a second.
Machine, you may redirect whenever you're ready.
Thank you, I have no further questions, thank you.
All right. Now, sir, you are free to go. Is this witness potentially subject to recall?
No, Your Honor.
Do you want your exhibits I have here?
Just leave, yeah, we'll take care of those.
Okay.
They would like to collect their exhibits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, please do not discuss your testimony with anyone else that might be potentially a witness in this case, okay? Thank you.
You're free to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm noting it is 11:45. I don't exactly know what the next anticipated witness is, but I suspect it's probably not someone that we would be done within a half hour or so by both parties. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys take your lunch hour now. So please leave your notepads, keep your lanyards on. Please remember your admonitions that you are not to discuss the case amongst yourselves, you're not to do any type of researching on any issues, you're not to discuss the case with anybody else, whether it's amongst other jurors or outside parties. And when you return, I will, as I stated earlier, I will inquire, make sure there have been no issues. Start reassembling here in the foyer about, no later than 20 till 1. Ms. Wilson will be out looking for you. Hopefully about 1:45 till 1 or 10 till 1, we will get started promptly, okay? We'll stay on the record to see if anybody has anything to address.